listening to the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast, a podcast in sisterhood for female entrepreneurs that serves up savvy, actionable marketing advice and interviews with creative business owners who are in the trenches, building their businesses as we speak. The Marketing in Yoga Pants community is for you, the girl on her couch, in her yoga pants, top knot tight, hunched over her MacBook, trying her hardest to get the word out about her business. So in the name of supporting each other while supporting ourselves, bringing community, sound marketing advice, coffee, chocolate, and wine together for you, yoga pants wearing business owner, in a world where followers mean nothing, but paying customers mean the world, join us on this week's podcast episode and in our private Facebook group where you'll meet your soul sisters and build your business in yoga pants. Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast. I'm Brit and I'm here today with Ashley Gartland, founder and business coach for women entrepreneurs. Thanks for joining me today, Ashley.
Thanks for having me, Brit. I've been looking forward to this for months, I think.
Yeah, ditto. So Ashley and I were able to connect over a virtual coffee chat. I don't know, probably, a couple months ago. Oh my goodness. And we hit it off from the very get-go. I really, really love where Ashley comes from just as a person and as she represents her business. I'm just a huge fan. So I'm really pumped to get to chat with her today, get some insight into her business, her industry, her marketing strategy, and what makes it all tick. So Ashley, are you ready to jump in?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, let's do this. Okay. So first of all, Ash, can you please tell us, how do you earn your living?
So I'm a business coach. I work with women entrepreneurs whose businesses are doing very well, but they feel like it's a real hot mess behind the scenes. And they know that chaos and that stress and the disorganization that they're feeling in their business is holding them back from reaching the next level of success. So what I do is I help them simplify their business and their to-do list and everything like that. And we build a stronger foundation so that they can experience that growth that they know is possible. And also so that they can find more fulfillment in their work again and get that freedom back in their life or achieve it for the first time that, they know is possible because they set their own schedule, because they run their own business.
That's such important work. I can just feel some of the listeners thinking, that's why I got into business in the first place. And I have yet to figure out how to make this actually feel fulfilling, because usually I just feel totally scattered. Yeah, that's so important. So I know the story and I can't wait for you to tell it to our listeners, but I know that you didn't start by doing this. So take us way, way back and tell us the story of how you came to do this with your life.
Yeah. So I guess I kind of got bit by the freedom bug in college when you get to set your own schedule. And I started seeing I can do things when I want to, for the most part, right? And work when I want to and play when I want to. And I really liked that. And so I had this great mentor in college who was a freelance writer. I was a journalism major. And so I had this great mentor who was a teacher, and she was a freelance writer and editor. And I thought, well, that sounds rad. Like, she gets to set her own schedule. She teaches some of the time. She says when she wants to be somewhere and when she wants to do it. And I thought, I could do that. That's really interesting. So when I graduated, I kind of looked around for a hot second at what was out there. Didn't really see anything in the locations that I really wanted to live in particularly, and didn't see any jobs that were really right for me. And so I started my freelance writing business and started it with a lot of side jobs and, to fund the business, and got it off the ground. And in about 6 months went full time with it. And then I did that for a period of 7-8 years. And it looked different. There's lots of different iterations in there where I was working in public relations sometimes, did a little bit of copy editing. I worked for a couple launches for some digital online kind of magazines, and I wrote a couple of books. And then at that point, people kind of thought I was crazy, but I was ready to check out. I felt like I'd done what I wanted to do in that industry. I had reached the goals that I'd set. I didn't really have an itch to keep setting more goals and reaching them. And I was looking for fulfillment. I was looking for something that didn't just feel like a 9-to-5 job, where I actually felt fulfilled and felt purpose in my work and felt like I was giving back to people. And I started to kind of pay attention. There was a lot of people who were calling me up out of the blue saying, how did you do what you did? How did you build this life of freedom? How did you create your own business? And how can I do that? And so I started kind of seen the writing on the wall and found out that coaching exists. I did not know that before. I did not know that you could be a business coach for entrepreneurs, and found that path and slowly started making that transition about 3 years ago and moved into it full time, probably about that point too.
Interesting. So, okay, I'm going to call you out just a second. You kind of downplayed this whole freelance writing career, I think, a little bit. And you did mention it, but you wrote a couple books and published a couple books. And you mentioned that when you did decide to, well, as you were deciding that, hey, I don't know that I really want to do this writing thing anymore in the niche that you had kind of become known for. What kind of resistance did you feel within yourself and within your circles? What was that transition like?
Yeah. So in my circle, there were a lot of more veteran writers who had written 10 cookbooks, who had, hustled their whole life and done this work their whole life, or had moved from writer to editor to launching a magazine or something. And they were looking at me and saying, "You're like 30, you're a baby. Why on earth would you retire from this right now? Like, that does not make sense to us." And internally for me, it was hearing that a little bit with them and hearing them say that and thinking, am I crazy to jump into something new at this point when I've established myself here and things are just getting even better? And also I was a brand new-ish mom. And so I was like, is this also the right time for my family and for me to make this leap into it? But I tried. I have 2 little girls. And so when the second one was born, I had tried to do the writing thing for a couple of years and just made it a job. And I couldn't do it. I'm not one of those people who my job can just be my job. It's a big piece of my life. And so I knew that wasn't going to work to just punch the clock in it. So that was kind of the resistance I faced was, could I just do this and have it be my work and close shop and at the end of the day and enjoy my life? But it didn't work for me. So I had to move past that resistance and take that leap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I feel that so hard. And I think anyone with an entrepreneurial bone in their body, I think, can probably relate to that feeling of, a job is a job. That's cool for some people. But for many of us, I think of many of our listeners, it can't just be a job. Like, there just has to be more in there. Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. So take me to, as you begin transitioning from writing to business coaching, how did you get your first client's attention and how did you earn their first dollar? What did that look like?
So the first thing I did was I went and got trained. Like, I went and learned how to be a coach. I went to life coach training school, because I felt like I had the business skills. I knew how to help people build their business, but I was like, if I'm going to call myself a coach, I need to know coaching skills and coaching tools and how to ask great questions. And so I went and did that first. And then, I was trying to think about this. My first couple clients, two, maybe 3, came through referrals of either people I went to coaching school with, or people, like, one was a high school friend who needed some support. Like, they came through referrals. But I've heard a couple people say this on your podcast, and I know that as a listener, sometimes I'd be like, well, that would be so nice if I could build my business on referrals, and that just is not happening. So what I want to say about building a business on referrals is you have to make the ask. You have to say, I'm open for business. This is what I do. Describe it to people, get them on board with what you're doing, and ask, do you know anybody like that? Do you know anybody who could use help with these things? And that's when the referrals come. It's not like they just come in cold.
That is such a good point. If you have thought that thought of like, well, yeah, that'd be nice, you need to backspace or go back like 30 seconds and listen to that again, because you're absolutely right. Doing good work is the foundation. Making the ask is what can take a potential referral to a real referral and that next paying client. You're so right. So you started building your reputation within business coaching. How did you take it then to the next level? What have you been doing over the past 3 years to build your base?
So 2 things. I have continued to, I wouldn't necessarily ask for referrals, but I've continued to do what I call the one-to-one method, which is just one-to-one outreach. If I see somebody who's struggling with things that I know I can help them with in a Facebook group or in a networking group that I'm a part of in person, however I hear of that person's struggles, I offer my support, not in a let's work together right away kind of way, but let's have a conversation about what you're struggling with and see if this is a good fit. So that's one way. And that I would say that, I built 80% of my business that way. And then the other 20% is like experimentation, is doing challenges, is doing, a lot of the traditional online marketing strategies like challenges or having an opt-in or posting on social media or hosting up. I just did a pop-up workshop last week, like giving myself the time and space to experiment with some of these other strategies and see what works for me and my audience and what's enjoyable, and then doing more of those if it's a good fit.
I like that. I like that blend. The 80%, building the relationship and trying to help where you can. And then that 20% of play, which is that excites me. That's fun. And when I first found out about you, I really, from the get-go, saw you as an expert because I think I heard you at first on a podcast. And so you certainly have gotten your business out in that way. Can you tell us a little bit about that strategy? Is that something that you just experiment with and take the opportunity when it comes, or is that a part of your main strategy?
Like an intentional thing. Yeah, it definitely is. Last year in my business, I tried a little bit of the guest blogging. I still do that from time to time, and then I tried a couple of podcasts. Like I was trying those two strategies for greater visibility in front of new audiences at the same time. And from both to see what would work best to bring new people in the door and start engaging and growing that community. And also just to see what was the most fun for me. And the podcasts were the most fun and they brought more people in the door. So
I love that.
It was an obvious strategy to move towards more of that. So last fall, I did a huge podcast pitching blitz where I took all the skills I used as a freelance writer and adopted them for my business and figured out how to pitch podcasts and how to make it successful and created some tools for my clients to use too around these things, and pitched a bunch of podcasts and was on a bunch of podcasts. And I'll continue to do that, not quite at that capacity, but I love doing them. I think things come out in a conversation that just don't come through in writing.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's talk about what you're working on right now. Where's your focus at? What are you doing currently?
Yeah, so I'm doing a lot of experimentation. I'm doing, I serve all my clients through one-on-one coaching partnerships. And I found that there was this middle ground between the people who just wanted one session to get something solved and people who wanted a much longer term engagement, like a 4 or 6 month coaching package. So I'm experimenting right now with doing a month-long intensive with people, and I'm shaping that. And I've started offering it to a couple of people where we meet at the top half of the month or whenever their month starts. And we do a long kickoff session for them, really get in there and solve their problems and create an action plan for them. And then we do a lot of email support in between. And then sometimes we wrap up with a quick kind of wrap up call at the end to give them some strategies and tools moving forward. And I'm really liking this in between. So I'm doing that as one thing for my clients and for new clients. And then I'm also experimenting with pop-up workshops and things that will allow me to bring the message of how to simplify your business to people in different ways at different price points.
Oh, I like it. Yes. Walk us through what are some of the things that you work with your one-on-one clients to simplify their business? Because that's really, you're a business coach, but you have a very distinct take on what you do with your clients when it comes to business coaching. It's all about simplifying and getting back to, this is how I see it, what's going to really matter. So they're not kind of running all over the place and scatterbrained. So walk us through some examples of what you might work your clients through.
Yeah. So my clients usually come to me saying, I am done with the hustle. I don't want to talk with anybody who preaches the hustle anymore. And they're like, I believe that there is a better way to run my business, but I just can't see it. Like they believe in it, but they can't see what that would be for them because they haven't yet explored what strategies, like you said, what strategies are going to work for them and which ones they can let go of. So there's a couple of things that I work with my clients on. One is about some of it's mindset related stuff like pursuing progress, not for perfection. Like that just cleans things up really easily if they're chasing, like getting stuff done instead of like perfecting these things that they're working on. But I work a lot with people around saying no to distractions, saying no to shiny objects, and stop doing all the things and just do the things that are really going to work. So we do that. We do a lot of work around delegation. I find that a lot of people are afraid of delegating. And I certainly was in this boat in my first business and at the beginning of this business. But it's the thing that can help take you to the next level. And people are afraid to spend money on it. People are afraid that they're not going to find the right people. They're afraid to hand the reins over to somebody else in their business. So we do a lot of work on what do you need to let go of? What can you delegate? What can you just stop doing to make room for the things that are fulfilling to you, the things that are actually going to make your business grow?
Nice. I'm going to put you on the spot here. If someone is feeling that just has so much on their plate, can't figure out how to get focused today, and they have that inclination. They know that they are distracted. Could you give them a tip or two or three to regaining their focus and ridding themselves of those biggest distractions right now?
Yeah. So I love the brain dump as a tool. And maybe they've already had this because maybe they have a long list of to-dos that they're looking at. But either take that list of to-dos or do a brain dump of all the to-dos that are living in your head, all the things that you have that you're trying to juggle, and look at them and ask yourself, what could I pass off either like right now, or can I at least assign someone to that? Can I say someday a designer could take this on? Someday my OPM could do this. So start getting in the mindset of delegating there. What can I pause on? Just what it doesn't need to happen right now because it's nowhere near related to your goals in the current moment. And what do you need to prioritize? And figuring out what to prioritize can be hard for people because they'll look at that list and everything seems like it deserves equal attention. But the thing that you're going to prioritize should be related to your current goals. It should be something that is, sometimes it's timely, right? Like you're in a seasonal business and you need to get something out around January, or you need to get something out around the holidays. So sometimes it's just a deadline driven to do. And then also what's going to be really fun and exciting for you to work on, because that's going to be really energizing to you and you're going to want to do that and you'll move through that project fast.
You know, as you were explaining the brain dump, and I mean, okay, right. We've all heard of the brain dump before, but I will just support this thought so hard because as you were explaining that, I grabbed here on my desk, I have a piece of paper that is just a blank piece of paper from a notebook. And I probably wrote on this like a week and a half ago. And I hit a little breaking point. I'm going to be honest, but hit a little breaking point. And there were so many different things bouncing around in my head. And every single thing that it was coming to the forefront was just frantic. Like it was just really, really frantic energy going on. And so I sat down and I brain dumped every little thing that kept coming up in my head. And there were, oh my gosh, at least 20 items that I wrote down. And you're so right. When you get them in front of you, like when they have a little space on a piece of paper, I don't know, my experience is often, I realize that a lot of the things, I would say at least 80% of them are things that I have no control over. Like I literally cannot do anything with that item right this second. It's just something that I'm worried about. And then knowing that and seeing it on the piece of paper allows me to be like, oh, okay, so I can just choose to stop worrying about it. And then I can focus on the things that really are priorities. So I totally support that. When you do a brain dump, is that a similar situation for you? Or where does your head go when you do a brain dump and just have to figure everything out?
Yeah. Like I don't find that I need to use it as much because I've done this tool so many times that I can almost sort it out of my head pretty quickly. But if you're new to this, I highly recommend writing it down. Because like you said, you need to be able to see it. And almost, I had a coach that I know here in Portland said he has a parking lot, like a physical piece of paper that he puts sticky notes on that are like, these are projects that are in the parking lot. They do not need to be worked on right now. So that's like the pause category. But I loved that analogy of these things are parked and you don't need to give them any time, attention, brain space, concern right now. Just work on what can I pass off and what can I prioritize.
Yeah, I really like that. And then where is your focus for this year? Can you bring us in kind of behind the scenes? What are you trying to do this year?
I hate to say more of the same, but I
love that answer. That's why I just asked you, because I remember talking about this a couple months ago and you saying, you know what, I want to maintain, I want to stay this path. And I was so encouraged by that. So riff on it. I give you full permission.
Yeah. So I look at my business as how can I live in line with my values? And I know you just talked about this on a recent podcast too. It's like, what are the top 5 values I have or the top 5 priorities I have in my life? And how can my business support those things? Like, full disclosure, my business is one of those things, but how can it support the other things? My family, my health, my community, like the things that are important to me. And so when I look at that, it's not this, I run a very simple, lean business, and that's exactly what I need it to be to reach my goals. And I don't need to do tons more stuff. The only place that I'm drawn to do more, not less, is to spread the message more. And that can be done really easily through podcasts or through workshops and like very simple things. It does not have to be this huge business to reach my level of success, like my definition of success. So I think that's important for people to get clear on before they try and do all the things, because they're probably doing all the things because someone else said they should, and they might not be in line with what they really want.
Yes. Yes. How have you been able to, because you've been at this for about a decade, right? How have you been able to decide and define your definition of success?
It changes with different seasons, right? Like as a mom of two little girls, I want to run a business that's not part-time, but not full-time. It's somewhere in between those two things. And so I know how many people I can serve. I know how I want to serve them in my business. And if I have those things going, if I'm able to still be creative in my business and feel fulfilled with the work, then that's successful to me. And if I'm still able to take care of myself and spend time with my family and have time for leisure and play, then that's success.
It sounds like they very much relate back to those values that you've figured out within yourself, those ways that you just naturally, you don't even have to think about caring about those things. They're just there. They are Ashley.
Yeah. And
that's
honestly,
powerful.
like this is how I build my schedule. Like I build a priority focused schedule. So I figure out what those priorities are. I schedule those things in. Then, and the working hours fit in there too. But every day there's time for movement for me, because health is a big priority. Every day there's time for family. Every day, like once a week at least, there's something community related, like whether that's at the girls' schools or like having friends over for dinner. Like they're very simple things, but I build my schedule around the priorities, and work fits in there too, but it doesn't take over. So I don't get to experience those other things that are important.
That's awesome. Ashley, tell me what inspires you in your work?
I think in life in general, I'll go there first. In life is just being outdoors, being in nature, and experiencing that space and just having that experience. And then also like books really inspire me, like being able to move yourself from your current environment and like kind of go in somewhere and imagine and learn. So I've always been a big reader. But in business, the thing that really inspires me the most, I think there's two things. One is when clients see themselves, when clients can see who they are, what makes them unique, and they understand what they want to do with that and how they want to share it. Like I love helping women do that. And that's about getting away from all the busy in their business and moving them into fulfillment again. So that is like so inspiring to me. And it's also super inspiring to me when I see two really rad businesswomen collaborate and they're able to create something that's greater than what they could alone. I think that's amazing and so needed. And I'm seeing a lot of really amazing business owners do that right now.
Yes, I agree. So if our listeners wanted to learn more, kind of dive more into how to simplify their business, what resources would you suggest? Resources of your own or others that you would point them to? Would love to know that.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this because I know you're going to ask about resources, and I haven't found a book that I love on simplifying your business. So I do have a guide that I want to share with your listeners. It's 5 steps to simplifying your business, and it'll walk them through 5 really easy to do key steps that will, if they do them in their business, it tells them what the steps are and how to take action on them. If you do those things, you'll be in such better shape and have such a stronger foundation in your business already. So if they want to get that, it's just Ashley M. Gartland /simplify.com/simplify.
Perfect.
And then the other book that I actually really like to recommend, and it's for the coaching industry, but when you're talking about relationship marketing and kind of that one-to-one outreach method that I talked about, The Prosperous Coach is a great Bible on that.
Yes.
And it's good for people who aren't just coaches. Like I've had clients who are photographers or other service industry professionals who want to learn how to reach out to people and have powerful conversations about how they could collaborate or work together. I think it's a great, quick, easy read.
Yes. And actually, now that you say that, a couple months ago when we first talked, you told me about The Prosperous Coach and I downloaded it immediately. I was like, okay, I really respect Ashley. I'm going to go read this book. It's not a cheap book. Like it's a book. I think I got it on Kindle or something and it was like $35 or something like that. But because it's so valuable, you guys, if that like $35 for a book scares you, oh my goodness, it is going to come back to you 10, 100-fold. This book is, like you said, a Bible for coaches. And it's just so good. I agree. such a good book. So just sold that to you, that for sure. And we'll definitely link over in the show notes to your guide. That's so helpful. All right. So one last question we have to end with. Looking back, what advice would you give to yourself when you were first starting your business? That girl on her couch, hunched over her MacBook, trying to figure this all out. What would you say to her?
I'd say don't do all the things. Like trust yourself to choose the right next step for you and focus on that and see if it works and then try these other things. Because I think we dilute our efforts at the beginning. And I did this in both my business. I repeated the mistake. Was as a writer, I tried to write about health and food, and I was doing some editing. Like I was doing so many things at the beginning that I could barely have space to breathe. And I eventually streamlined and simplified that business. And same with coaching. It was like when I got out of coaching school, they told you so many things that you should be doing to grow. And I couldn't do any of them well. I should have just picked 1, 2, maybe 3 strategies, focused on those, pick what worked, and then moved on instead of trying to do it all at once.
Yep. Really, really good advice. Okay. So before we go, could you please tell the listeners where they can find you online?
Yeah. So my website is just www.ashleymgartland.com. And I'm on Instagram, Ashley Gartland. And I have a Facebook group called The Simplified Entrepreneur, where we have conversations about how to simplify your business. And those are the 3 main places that you can find me online.
I love that group. Guys, I'm in that group. And I love seeing your posts and seeing what people are talking about because you have such a strong message. And when you get into a group like that under a brand that has such a strong message, I know that the women in there are coming at it from the same way. They're aiming at simplification. And I love that message because when we can simplify, we can get back to the stuff we care about, which is, again, right back to the beginning, important work. I love it. All right. So you heard her, girls. Go check her out, send her some love, and then hop into our private Facebook group to hear even more from Ashley over the next few days.
Yeah. And Brit, can I offer one more thing to your audience?
Absolutely. Go for it.
This is my favorite part when doing podcasts. I want to offer the 3 women in your audience the chance to do a simplified strategy session. So if you are feeling like your business is doing pretty good, or you've had even just a little bit of success, but you know that this hustle you're at isn't sustainable and you're tired of feeling like that hot mess behind the scenes, I want to jump on a call with you. And I want us to figure out how you're going to simplify and give you some action steps so that you can take things to the next level and experience more of that freedom and flexibility. So if they want one of those calls, I just set up a landing page at ashleymgartland.com with /MIYP. And if you're hearing this and you think the call is gone and you've missed your chance, like please still check it out because sometimes they're still there. Sometimes I'll update it with something else that we can do to connect.
That is amazing. I think I've already fangirled enough all over you today, but you guys, you're listening to this, you know how much I love Ashley. And if you are feeling that overwhelmed, that unsimplified life, I encourage you to go to that landing page and spend some time with Ashley. She's a rock star and that's huge. Thank you so much for offering that. That's incredible. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast. Keep the conversation going by visiting marketingin.yogapants.com/Facebook, where you'll get to join that private Facebook group I've been talking so much about. There, you'll get to chat with our podcast guests. Yeah, they're in there too. And all of the other brilliant creative business owners. We're connecting, we're meeting our soul sisters, and we're building our businesses, all while in yoga pants. So come hang out with us. Again, visit marketingin.yogapants.com/Facebook to get in. And one more thing. If you dig this podcast, would you be awesome and share it with someone? This entire Marketing in Yoga Pants movement is nothing without its community. So please share. And if you're really feeling the love right now, jump into iTunes. You're probably already there if you're listening to this right now. And leave us a rating and review. The more of those we rack up, the more the podcast will be found by ladies like you, and the stronger this community becomes. This episode was edited and produced by the Podcast Engineers. They're pretty great, so go find them at podcastengineers.com. This episode was also brought to you by my online marketing agency, Jam Marketing Group, and you can find us at jammarketinggroup.co. That's all for now. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you back here next week on the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast. Love ya. Bye.